Hey, what's going on, family? Listen, we've had a lot of amazing guests on the show, and perhaps you may have never, ever listened to those episodes. So we wanted to present a new segment called SOW Classic, where we go back, we revisit those iconic conversations, and give those full episodes back to you. Sit back and enjoy this week's SOW Classic. Man, this is about to be crazy. This is going to be one of those exclusive moments. Like, I don't think the people are ready for this. I will never move the same. It's going to be crazy. We worked so hard for this moment. If you've been paying attention.
Sean. We about to hit Ed Mylett, so if you haven't checked this guy out, over 1 million followers on Instagram.
You can do what people don't see possible. That's what I would tell them.
What's up? It's Ed Mylett. I just finished the School's Over podcast with Sean Anthony. I'll do a lot of interviews, and I did this one because of my respect for this man. You gotta follow this guy, get involved with this podcast. It's blowing up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. School's over now with the podcast, and I'm here with my man. I waited a long time, Ed Mylett, man. How's it going?
It's doing great, brother. Great to be with you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming to the house, too.
Man, of course, man. First off, I'm just excited. Like, I've never been on the West Coast.
I heard that.
Yeah, I've never been on the West Coast, and I was like, you know what? There's one person that I will get on a flight and leave North Carolina and come to, and it was you, bro.
That's my privilege. And by the way, we took you right to the edge of the coast because there's the water right there, so you're literally on the coast. So.
Man, that's it, man. You know what's crazy about it is that, like, as I manifested it and dreamed about this opportunity and like this moment, I said, yo, somehow if I ever make it to Ed's house, I want to sit on the couch.
Yes.
That all of these crazy guests have been on, man.
Yeah, you're sitting there. Yeah, and it's my honor to have you here. You know, I don't do a lot of these, so we did it because your show's blowing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
man, I appreciate it, man. So take me back to that kid. I want to know about Ed growing up. That kid that was out looking around trying to figure out what he was going to do in life. Take me back to you as a child.
Oh boy, he was a pretty pathetic figure. Me as a kid, if you met me when I was a kid, you would meet a very shy, very small, very insecure dude. My family, I have a great family, but my dad was a really bad alcoholic. And so I was the oldest boy. I had 3 sisters. I was always, even now to this day, I'm not a real big dude, but I worked out a lot, so I don't look quite as small as I used to. But the truth is, if you'd have met me when I was a kid, I was a very shy, very insecure kid. And like a lot of people listen to this, I come from a home where like the rest of the world thought things were pretty cool behind, but if you went behind the front door of my house, you'd have seen a family with a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure. I had a lot of stress. My parents fought a lot. You know, my dad would be gone. And so, yeah, my childhood was, I'm not going to say it was horrible because it wasn't. I had a loving family. You know what I mean? My parents both, my dad's been sober 30 years, by the way. So my dad's my best friend now. But I had a really difficult childhood just because of the anxiety. I come from one of those normal dysfunctional families that most people come from.
Man, that's crazy, man. So, like, I think a lot of people listening to this right now can relate to, you know, just coming from the struggle.
Yeah.
Like, as you grew up and your father was, you know, going through all of these different things,
yeah.
How did that impact what you were thinking?
Well, I think a lot of times when you see your dad struggling, you know you come from that, right? So there's nobody in my family. My family's not, I grew up super poor, but there's no one in my family never talked about winning or living by the ocean or owning a jet or being successful. My family puts a priority, which is good, on just being a good person. Like most people listen to this, if you went into your family, there's some screwed up people. It's either your uncle or your dad or your mom, or one of them was gone, or one of them's a drug addict. We all come from these different places. Like, but it's. I think it's important for people to know. Like, I come from that, and guess what? My life turned out great, and so my family. No one ever talked about winning. We never went on a vacation. You know, there was nothing like that. No one ever thought big. You know, the fact that things have turned out the way they have for me is pretty ironic because it was never discussed. No one ever told me, hey, you could be anybody you want to be, or you could be successful. Well, one thing I had as a kid is I was an athlete. I was a very good athlete. And so I played baseball. That was my sport. I played college baseball. I played after college professionally for a while. So my self-confidence came from my ability to be a pretty good performer when it came to sports. That's what transformed my life.
So you're playing baseball, right? And
Yeah.
obviously you're still a buff guy. Yeah. But as you're playing baseball, like, was there ever a moment you say, you know what if this doesn't work? What if the bat stops swinging? What if I'm not good at it anymore?
Yeah, I don't think I did think about it when I was playing, and then that happened. Wow. The bat did stop swinging, and there were dudes better than me. And I figured out, guess what? There's bigger, stronger, faster than you. Like anybody listen to this that played any sport, you start working your way up. You go high school, then you go Division I, then you go professionally. Like, wow, everybody's good. Everybody was the best player in high school. Everybody was the best player in college. And so, yeah, I got to the point where I got injured. But the fact is that injury probably ended a career that would have ended anyway. And yeah, when it was over, I was like, my whole identity was tied to being an athlete. Who the hell am I? I never thought about what I would do after that. I went to college, but I went to college to play baseball, right?
Yeah.
So my degree is in broadcasting, communications. So ironically, I use it now with my show. That was God working in my life at the time. I didn't even know it. God's like, I'm going to make you a broadcast guy because someday you're going to be a successful businessman and have a podcast. I had no idea. But I never thought past baseball. I never knew what I was going to do. And when baseball ended, I was lost. Literally lost. I moved back home with my parents. I was broke. I was sleeping in the same bed I was in high school. And I was one of those like early 20s super lost people in the world.
That's great. So you're in your early 20s. You're super lost in the world.
Yeah.
And you go back home with your moms.
Yes.
Like what was that like? Like, did your moms have the food ready for you? Did you get too comfortable?
It was humiliating, to be honest with you, because same posters on the wall, same teddy bear, same trophies from high school. And at first, mom's happy you're home.
Yeah.
Oh, my baby's back, right? Making me dinner. Then it's like, hey, you need to get a job. It's Wednesday. You're watching Jerry Springer for the 11th straight day. My whole life for like a year was on Maury Povich. I remember like 4 o'clock every day. My life was like, you are not the father. Like, I was like, yeah. Like, my mother's like, hey, there's got to be something more than Maury Povich in life, I don't know if any of y'all watched that show, but like, that's where I was. And finally, my dad came home. My dad got sober.
Okay.
Which was great. My dad comes home from an AA meeting and goes, hey, I got you a job. And I'm like, what is it? Like, I'm being picky. He's like, you don't get to pick. You're unemployed, dude. You need to get a job. With my college degree, living at home, he goes, it's at McKinley Home for Boys. I'm like, what is that? He goes, I don't know, but go there tomorrow. Tim's hiring you from my meeting.
Wow.
And I go tomorrow. This changed my whole life. I walk in, and McKinley is in San Dimas, California. I walk in there, I go, hey, I'm here for the job. And the lady's like, what job? I go, I don't know. My dad sent me here. She's like, well, I don't know who your dad is, but you need to figure, what job? And I go, I don't know. She goes, well, why don't you come back when you know what the job is? I'm like, okay. So I get to the door. I'm like, if I go home, my father's going to kill me. I'm like, look, I need this job, lady. She's like, well, do you even know who's hiring you? I'm like, no. She goes, how do I help you? I don't know the job. I go, well, his name's Tim. She goes, that's not going to help. I go, well, he must be an alcoholic because he was with my dad. Oh, drunk Tim! Right? And she goes, oh, go to Cottage 8. That's where he is. And I walk in Cottage 8, and I didn't know it. Look at this. I get chills. I walk through the front door of Cottage 8, and my whole life changed in that instant. I open the door. There's 10 boys running around screaming, get ready for school. My boys were 8 to 10 years old. McKinley's a campus of group homes. Hundreds of boys, all orphans, all wards of the court. So my boys were 8 to 10. Their parents were either dead, incarcerated, or had molested them.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm instantly with these boys, and all these boys wanted is they wanted someone to love them, believe in them, care about them, show them how to live their life better. And these boys, I have this theory, man. When you come from a dysfunctional family or an abusive family, your eyes are a little different. You have these eyes. I don't know how to explain it, but when you just know, people know what I'm talking about right now. And these boys all had those eyes. So did I. I had them. And I learned in that moment, like, my whole life's been happening for me, not to me. All my dad's drinking, all the anxiety as a little boy, all this stuff prepared me for this moment. In fact, if my dad didn't drink, he wouldn't have been at the AA meeting, he wouldn't have got me the job. And if I didn't grow up with my dad the way he was, I couldn't connect with these boys the way I did. And my life changed from being this athlete who was super driven by ego and winning, and you're the greatest, and you're the best, and you're gonna be famous. All of a sudden, my life was about helping these boys, contributing, loving them, believing them. And it's ironic, I'm 48 years old next month, and I've spent my whole business life doing nothing but that, loving people, believing them, coaching them, mentoring them, teaching them how to live better. I literally, God sent me in that group home with those beautiful boys to prep me for business. So I'm the one dude I know, when I finally went into my business life after McKinley, I can tell you honestly, I did not go in to make millions of dollars. I literally have always tried to be in a business where I could help someone, contribute, believe in them, loving them, and the monetization piece always came after.
Wow.
And it's flipped my whole life. So I spent 25, 30 years in business doing what I did at McKinley. It formed my whole life. It changed my whole life. And some of those boys are still in my life. So all that stuff happened for me, not to me. All of it.
What's one of the greatest things you've learned from helping out all of those young boys?
Everybody, well, I learned a lot. But I'll say this. Everybody wants someone to believe in them. And no matter where you come from, some of my boys, I told you, we talked about where we both grew up. And we both didn't grow up in perfect environments or wealthy environments. But let me tell you something, man. God doesn't make deficient products. And these boys who came from, imagine you're an 8-year-old boy, and you spent the last 6 years having your uncle and your dad molest you every day. You know, you missed a bunch of meals. You'll never know your dad again. You're living in a group home with 8 other boys. You don't think very highly of yourself. And you know what I learned about these boys? God wants them to win too. Those dudes deserve to win and be successful and contribute and change the world. And God chose those dudes to win as much as they choose any dude growing up in the perfect family, in the perfect environment with the great mom. And some of you listeners have the great mom and dad. That's awesome, man. What a blessing. Some of you don't have a great mom or a great dad. And guess what? That does not mean you're not chosen to win. Doesn't mean you're not favored. You got to find a mentor. You got to find someone to believe in you. And when people believe in one another, man, it sounds hokey, but I'm a product. I'm sitting here. We're looking at the ocean right now.
It's crazy.
And this is one of 5 homes, and there's jets and all these other things in my life. I'm a product because great people believed in me. Great people mentored me. They gave me a shot. I busted my ass at winning, right? I tried. I've outworked everybody, but I'm not deluded into thinking that God didn't have his hand on my life, that there's not favor, there's not blessing in my life. And I'm a product of a lot of great people believing in me, just like I believed in those boys.
It's so crazy you say that, because I think what people fail to realize is that by having a mentor, you're going to get to that destination so much quicker than you even imagine.
It speeds it up. And the other thing, today's day and age, I'm old, man. Like when I was young, I'd listen to some Tony Robbins tapes in the back of the, whatever. Now, you can get a mentor. I mean, the best mentors like what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's the highest form of influence comes from proximity. So the closer you can get to somebody, the greater influence they have over you, right? So don't discount getting close to somebody. But so that's with your kids. If you have kids, your teachers are kind of mentors, but who really influence your kids? They're friends. You worry about who they hang around. So who's the closest to them, who influences them? But now what's amazing is, and I'm not saying just this with me, but you can get access to someone like me who's built multiple businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars, understand how the brain and faith, all of it connect, and you can get access to them every day on Instagram, every day on their podcast, every day on YouTube. It's amazing today. Now, that's not proximity, but what you do get with me is repetition. You can see me every single damn day. And so what you want to do is have virtual mentors who are these huge influencers on your life, and then work every day to find someone closer to you who can be in your proximity, who can help you too. But today, it's amazing who you can get access to. I had nobody. Now you can get access to the best people in the world. They post stuff every day. And guys like me, I don't just post like a video of my jet. I'm like, let me tell you how I got my jet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I think about. Let me tell you how my mind works. Let me tell you my morning routine. Let me tell you how the brain works. Let me tell you how I influence people, how I speak, how I think. I literally detailed teach what I do, because I spent the first 45 years of my life kind of building my life.
Yeah.
Working hard, building my net worth, coaching athletes, entertainers, business people, building companies, speaking on stage, all that. And I'm like, you know what? Tony Robbins told me this. Why don't you spend the second half of your life teaching everybody else how to do it in theirs? And so that's what I do now. You know this. Right when you were here, there was another group leaving, right?
Yeah.
Guys been on my show before, very successful guys. Whatever I can do to help someone. That's why we're doing this today. Your show's blowing up, right? You've had some great people on your show. It's if I could reach one person listening to this today, they're like, hey man, my dad was a drunk too. Or my dad wasn't in my life. Or my mom's alcoholic. Or, I never thought about the fact that because my family's not perfect, I could win too, right? Everybody here can win if you get the right business, the right mentor, the right model, the right thinking, the right execution. I don't care your background, your sexual preference, your religion, your ethnicity. That stuff's neutralized when you're an entrepreneur. You could win at any level, being anybody in this world.
It's crazy because we talk about the ability to connect with people and to be able to reach them quicker. Like, it was somebody that was listening to my show, and he kept tagging. And they kept tagging you and me together.
Oh, yeah.
And the power of the DM, like, it's crazy.
It sure is.
So as you guys know, he has over 1 million followers on Instagram.
Thank God.
And so many people kept sharing your content. It had top 5 podcasts. And it would be Ed Mylett. It would be Sean with Schools Over Now What. It would be Rachel Hollis.
Yeah.
And the power of that DM allowed for us to connect.
That's right. And by the way, that's how my show started. I started my show, Tony Robbins goes, hey, you need to do a podcast. And you know this story. I'm like, I didn't even know what a podcast was, right? I had no idea what one was. Oh, you want to tell that? So, this is so stupid, but like I had no social media 2 years ago, right? So the fact that I got and by the way, it's what's cool is about my following too is that we were talking about this off camera, but like I have 1 million followers, but I have a high engagement level. Like the people that engage with me comment daily, they're involved. I run this thing called the 2-minute drill. If you comment on my post every day in the first 2 minutes, I pick winners to get coached by me daily. It's cool, but so Tony Robbins is my good friend, and he's like, you really should start to take over this space again. You know, we need some legitimate people in this space, and you should do a podcast. I have no idea what a podcast is. I literally Google how to start a podcast. Literally, I Google it. And Tim Ferriss, who had a podcast on how to do a podcast. So I listened to that, and then at the end of it, he goes, click this link, and it'll show you the equipment like what we're doing right now.
Exactly what we're doing.
So I literally go to Amazon, I buy the equipment, I call Tony, I go, so what do I do? He goes, just talk into the microphone and the equipment and call me back. So I do 30 minutes on the podcast, I talk into the microphone and I call him. But before that, I can tell you this. He's like, you need Instagram. I'm like, my son's 16. I go set me up an Instagram account. And me and my son do this recording where we like record the Instagram video.
Yeah.
And the next day after the video, my son posts it. I get like 3 likes and 1 comment.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, Tony, what's the deal with this podcast? And here's what I hear him say. This is how stupid I am. This shows you if you want to do something, no matter how bad you are in the beginning, you can get great at it.
Yeah.
I have the #1 podcast probably in the world between YouTube and iTunes now, but this is how it started. So he literally goes, first off, you posted at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't do that. You need to post at breakfast time. So this is what I hear him say. Post at breakfast time. And he's like, and dude, how do you not have any hash browns in your post? So I hear breakfast and hash browns. And I'm like, I'm too embarrassed to go, what? Like, so I'm like, I don't know how this stuff works, but so I call my son, I go, I thought you were this social media guru, you're 16. How do you not know we're supposed to post at breakfast time with some damn hash browns in the video? And he's like, Dad, why would we need breakfast food? And I'm like, I don't know, but Tony Robbins says breakfast time with hash browns.
Perfect. Yeah.
Do it tomorrow. I want some hash browns in this video. Swear to God, man. And finally, my son calls back and goes, Dad, I'm not sure, but I think he said hashtags. I'm like, I don't know what the hell it is, but we need whatever they are.
Yeah.
So I literally, the first day, thought my video sucked because there was no hash browns in my videos. Turns out it was hashtags.
That's crazy.
Then I record the podcast, and I call him. He's already talking about hash browns. And he goes, I go, hey, how do I get it out of that machine into like the internet?
Yeah.
How do you do that? He goes, well, you got to put it on the chip. And I'm like, what? What's all this food group crap, man? Like, hash browns, now chips. He's like, no, dumbass, there's a microchip you need in the machine. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that part. That wasn't in the Tim Ferriss video. So my whole first podcast never got recorded because I didn't put the microchip in the machine. That's how stupid I am. So finally I figured out like, oh, you got to have a microchip and you get into the internet. So that's how the whole thing started. And it ends up turning into this like podcast that gets millions of downloads now like 2 years later. So that should give everybody hope. Whatever businesses you're starting, you're like, I don't know anything about this business. I don't know anything about this. I was telling you about your podcast. It's growing and growing and growing. It's like if you just stay relentless and you get committed and human beings underestimate the power of complete focus and immersion in anything. I don't know anything about cancer.
Yeah.
My dad 4 years ago got diagnosed with a type of cancer called liposarcoma, right? Wow. I don't know anything about it. I'm a damn expert now. Someone in your family gets a disease, you learn everything about it. You're better than the damn doctor half the time. Everyone relating to this nods, right? You can become great at anything you get obsessed about, right? I got obsessed about my podcast and about liposarcoma. I'm an expert at both of them right now. Yeah. Turns out the dude next door to me, it's a rare cancer. This man right there in that house, I'm talking to him. Guess what kind of cancer he survived? Liposarcoma, right? My dad's got the same connections now. So it's crazy. Don't underestimate your ability to get great at something you really want to be great at, even if you aren't naturally good at it in the beginning.
That's crazy because so many people, you give them the tools, you give them all those things, and I think when they get those tools, they don't seem to know how to use them and they give up.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
Tools are a horrible substitute for total belief. Belief is everything. Like, once you have a knowing you're going to do something, once you know you could accomplish something, I'm telling you, that's a liberating thing, because there's this thing, you've heard me talk about this before, it's sitting right there on the wall. It's called a thermostat. Yeah. And in your life, you have a thermostat that guides your whole life. It's a secret. It's called your identity. Your identity, and by the way, it's unfair because most of your identity was installed to you when you were defenseless as a child, before you could even process thoughts. Your identity is basically the beliefs, thoughts, values, and ideas and concepts you hold to be true about yourself. It's your worth, what you think you're worthy of. The hardest thing to accept in life is you are literally getting out of this life right now. This is hard to accept, but it's true. You're getting out of life right now, spiritually, financially, physically, emotionally, relationships, what you think you're worth. You're getting what you think you're worth. It's the governor on your life. It sets the thermostat. So if you're a 75-degreer financially, it sets the thermostat. So in this room, for example, that thing's set at 75 degrees. If we open this door, it's a cold day. Yeah, if cold air blew in here, this room doesn't get cold. The external conditions don't dictate the temperature of this room because the thermostat dictates it. It'll turn the heater on and make it 75 degrees in here. If we opened up the door and a bunch of hot air blew in here, the thermostat would cool the room down to 75 degrees. That's how your life is. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. It governs everything. You think it's the external things that happen to you. It's not. It's the internal identity. So what happens is you start to get your life going. Financially, you're 75 degree. Now you're making some money. Yeah. Things are going really good. Man, you save $5,000. You save some stuff. All of a sudden, you know what you do if you're a 75 degree? If you're living at 85, 90 degrees, your results exceed your identity. You will unconsciously cool your life right back down to where you think you're worth and what you're comfortable. It seems coincidental. You're like, my car broke down. This meeting canceled. So-and-so needed money. Nope, that's not what it is, man. Unconsciously, you cool that room back down called your life to what you think you're worth. Reverse is also true. You go broke, you're not eating, you're on top ramen for 3 weeks. You're like, I'm gonna starve to death. You don't starve to death. You find a way eventually to turn the heater on and get it back to 75 degrees. This is true in our bodies. We lose weight, then we gain it. We gain weight and we lose it. Relationships, we're madly in love, then they're not with us anymore. The key to life is changing the thermostat setting of our life internally, our identity, our worth, our confidence level. And there's things I teach that you know about that help raise that. The key for me is I'm always trying to change my identity or that thermostat and live at higher temperatures in the most important areas. That's the key.
What's those most important areas?
For me, well, for a while it changes. So when I was younger, money meant something to me. Getting financially independent, getting free of money. But for me, so the main areas for most people is their love, their identity, right? That's the most important thing. Their relationships, their money, their body, their faith. These are the main areas. And the way you change your identity is through association. You talked about mentors earlier. Yeah, you can get a mentor by reading their book, a mentor by following them on Instagram, a mentor by listening to their podcast, a mentor by them being your friend. If you are 75 degree or financially, and all of a sudden you hung around me every day if I'm 150 degree, and the next day was Warren Buffett, the next day was Bill Gates, the next day was Phil Knight from Nike, the next day was Oprah Winfrey, right? There's no possible way you stay at 75 degrees. These people heat you up. Those of you that listen to this in your faith life, you're struggling with your faith, you're 75 degree. You join this Bible study group and you're living with all these godly, good, righteous people. All of a sudden, you can't live at 75 anymore, man. You know this. You might not get to their 150, but you get to about 100. So the caliber of association changes our identity in these areas. That's why proximity and association changes everything. Everyone goes, you are who the 5 people are you hang around. No one understands why. Why is because of identity. Why is because associations shape our identities in our life. So if you want to change how faithful you walk, you got to start hanging around with more righteous, faithful people. If you want to change your money, you got to get around some people with some damn money. If you want to be an entrepreneur and build a business, you can't keep hanging around your boys from high school. You got to add, you don't have to drop them necessarily, but you got to add some people to your circle who are entrepreneurs, who are moving and shaking, who are living higher than you identity-wise, and your life changes. We're here not because of me. I've done a lot of hard work. We're here because I busted my ass. God is good, my faith, and I rely. My number one identity comes from the fact that I know I'm the son of the King of Kings. I know his DNA runs through me. I know he wants me favored. I know he wants me blessing the world. So my number one association is God, is Jesus. In my case, I'm a Christian, but whatever your faith is your faith. And then the other part of it is the other human beings I surround myself with. You can't be around the guys I'm around and the women I'm around and not be performing at a higher level in those areas. It's like running a race against a slow person or a fast person. You get faster if they're fast.
Dude, that's so many truth bombs you just dropped. You know what's so crazy about that is you have to have a purpose. You have to have a being. And I truly believe that when you put like God first,
yes,
or you truly believe that God will align the right people in your life,
yes,
you get to do things you didn't expect.
Yeah.
If you asked me a year ago when I thought of this idea of just creating this show and creating this podcast, that less than a year, we're talking 10 months, that I would be in Ed Mylett's house,
crazy, huh?
on his couch.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is crazy. God's good.
And he aligns.
And I think it's awesome that two successful men can get together at a house like this and go, hey, we just want to honor God too. I'm not being overly preachy.
Yeah.
I just think most of the people listening to this probably grew up with a little bit of faith in their life. And I'm by the way, look, dude, I'm a sinner saved by God's grace. I'm not any perfect man by any means. But the fact of the matter is, I find it interesting, and I want to challenge people that listen to this. And you probably won't hear any other influencer on social media say this to you. In fact, I know you won't, but I will. I'll tell you. It's funny to me that you believe in God. You say you believe in God. You say you're a person of faith, but you constantly check God at the door when it comes to your business and your success. It's like somehow you got to do all this on your own. Somehow God will help you in your relationships. God will help you with your health. With business and money, man, it's all on me. And you feel alone. My number one business partner, honestly, I'm not saying I don't have struggles all the time, but man, I love praying. I love relying on God. I love asking for favor. My comfort is I know God wants me to win. I know He knows my heart's good. Yeah. I know He knows how screwed up I am, but He knows, man, if this guy does well, he's going to give to other people. Yeah. If I can make him successful, he's going to start a podcast and help people and speak and communicate. And he's not a perfect man or a perfect woman, but his intentions are good. His heart is good. I want to favor him. And so I believe God has my back. He's going to take me through some really dark times. But I don't drop him because it's business. I don't drop him because it's money. Yeah. He's in every area of my life. Not just my family, not just my faith or just my health. He's also in my business all the time. And he's obviously in yours. Look what's happened to you. It's amazing. And you're good and I'm good. We're busting our tails. Yeah. But he's really good.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, man, is that like when I think about everything and I think about journeys and I think about people to learn from, you're somebody right now that people are listening to learn from. So one of the things that people are very interested in is as you have these young boys, you help them grow. Yeah. Where did the business side of Ed come in?
Yeah, it came in while I was there. It's funny. My best friend's dad approached me to get into a financial services business when I was there. And so I started in the financial services business part-time while I stayed, and it got really difficult for me because I was only making $6 an hour working there. And the first year I made like $60,000 in the financial business part-time, and I didn't. They're like, you need to come into the business full-time. I'm like, I can't leave the boys. I can't leave my boys. And so I stayed there 2 years until all of my 8-year-olds graduated to 10 and left to the next house. And then I felt like it was okay. So I spent 2 years there, started in the financial services business. And then what happened was when I was in that business, we'd go to these conferences and they'd have these things where you'd speak.
Yeah.
And I walked up on stage and spoke, and I was terrible at first, but then I got pretty good, and then I was terrible at first. And then people were like, hey, will you come speak to this company? Yeah. Would you come speak here? And then the speaking turned into, hey, I know this athlete you should know. He needs help with his mental game. And I know this business person. I know this actor. I know this. And all of a sudden, God started to introduce me to different places and different things. And that led to another business, which led to real estate, which led to a startup business. And it just this path just sort of revealed itself to me. The one thing I learned from my dad is, my dad's such a great man. I hate having to say that he was alcoholic because there's so much more to him than that. But my dad's one of those old school dudes, man. Like, my dad was gone before I got up in the morning. This dude worked, man. And I got home from school and dinner was served, my dad wasn't there at dinner. He was still working. My dad worked Saturdays. My dad would go in after church on Sundays. Like, I learned from watching my old man what work looked like. Now, the one thing I'd say to all of you that are nodding your head when you hear this, you need to teach your kids that hard work pays off. The one thing I watch is my dad just worked. I never saw the payoff. And one thing my kids have learned is they watch their dad work like crazy, but my kids are like, oh, this hard work thing pays off. So all of you men and women that are listening to this that have children or that are planning on having children, you got an obligation to win. You got the hard work thing down, but you better teach them that hard work pays off. Wouldn't it be horrible for them to see you working hard every single day at something with no payoff? You got to find something that has a payoff for your family. And when you find that thing that'll pay off, you got to run after it. You got to get after that thing, because you're teaching your kids not just about hard work, but they're watching you. Do we win because we work hard? Do we prosper because we work hard? Do we go to on vacation because we work hard? Can we help out at church because we work hard? Are we involved in charities because we work hard? Do we live in a safe place? Do I go to good schools because we work hard? Or does mom and dad just work hard?
Oh, man.
Right? So you got to figure out, your kids are going to learn whether it pays off or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as you've worked on, and I had the honor just moments ago, and I seen, like, if we go, those of you who are listening right now, Ed's love for his family is so evident.
Thank you.
You know, as we're together meeting, you know, your daughter walks into a room, and your whole intention goes directly to her.
Thank you. Only got one daughter, so I better give her some attention.
But to have that mindset to be in business, somebody's listening right now and they're struggling, the balance.
Yeah.
How do you figure out that balance?
There isn't real balance. Last night was cool. Like, last night was my date night with my daughter. She picked El Torito. We're real fancy around here. So $20 at El Torito, right? I don't think there's balance. So what I would say to the busy people is this. I think balance is a fallacy, and I actually think balance is boredom. I think if you had perfect balance, you'd be pretty bored. Yeah. In life, what I've experienced is different areas of your life are spiking at any given time. Sometimes it's business, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's your health. And don't feel guilty because you're spending time in one thing. What I've learned to do, and by the way, I still struggle with it. Any person who's successful in one area struggles with this, but here's what I would advise people.
Struggle with it too.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. This is what I've learned to do. I'm present where I am. So when I'm with my daughter, my phone is down here, and I'm with my daughter. I'm not on the business. I'm not on a call. I'm with her. I'm fully present with her. But the mistake we make is when we're at work, we're lamenting we're spending too much time away from our kids, and we're thinking about our kids. When with our kids, we're on the phone about work. Yeah. And so we're never, in this day and age between social media and busyness with work and family, we're at our kids' soccer game, we're on our phone on a conference call the whole time. Your kid's got a football game, you're not even watching, right? Or you're filming it for Instagram, but you're not really watching the game, right? Or you're at work and it's 9 o'clock at night, you're like, I should be home with my kids. And then when you're home with your kids, you're taking calls. So what I would say to you is learn to be fully present where you are. One little thing I've done, which is psycho, but it's worked for me because I'm so addicted to this phone. When I come home, I leave my phone in the car the first hour.
Oh, wow.
So that when I walk in, there's something powerful. Oprah said this. She said, when your kids walk in the room, you're teaching them how special they are by how you react. So when they walk in the room, are you looking at your phone, hey there? Or when they walk in, you're like, there you are. And you give them that moment. So for me, that first hour when daddy comes home, I need to be fully present. I have to get to work eventually again. I'm not naive, right? Yeah. But that first hour when I walk in the room, there's no phone.
I'm taking that one from you.
Yeah, hey, I go and walk in my daughter's room. How was school? What happened? She's like, my dad looks at me when he's talking to me. He listens to me. We engage. She may not get 6 hours with me, but when I'm with her, I'm present. And I go see my son, and we talk, and there's no phone. Hey, Dad, what's going on? How was school? How was golf? How'd you do today? What happened on your Spanish test? And we talk, and I'm not looking at I used to look at my phone when my kids were talking to me. Do you know what message that sends to your kid? It tells them, who's ever in this phone you're looking at is more important than me. Wow. And I sent that message to my kids when they were young over and over. And finally I went, what the hell am I doing? So and it's too damn addicting not to look. Yeah. So I leave the stupid thing in my car the first hour. They kind of know Dad's fully present for that hour. And then I'll go back up to the car, I'll grab my phone, I'll do what I do, and then I set it aside and I'm back with them again. Be present where you are would be my counsel.
It's crazy because when you're present, not only that, but you're going to create memories. You're going to create, it's the small memories that people remember, right? Yeah. Like I know for me, I come from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Yeah. I come from the area code 252. And coming from that area, one of those small things as a child was like a Little Caesar's pizza.
Yeah.
So like, what was one of those small things for Ed?
When I was a kid,
yeah.
It's funny that you say that, but my date night with my wife was Little Caesar's Pizza.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's very weird that you say that.
That's crazy.
It's very weird that you say this because the first thing wow, look at that. Is that whack or what? So seriously, many of you might not know this, but my wife and I met when we were in kindergarten, so my wife and I were dated in high school. And my big little thing that we did when we were dating is we would get Little Caesars pizza. Is that crazy or what? Like, I got a huge fight at the Little Caesars pizza. That's a whole other story.
Was it hot and ready?
It was hot and ready. Remember that? You could get like 11 pizzas for $5 when I was a kid at Little Caesars. But little stuff for me, when I was a kid, like, or even now, I'm still a little stuff guy. So like, it's funny, like I do have, all these really cool things, but like I love little things well, I'm just not gonna lie to everybody. Like when you guys came here, I'm like, you guys want a drink?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna get emotional about this. Like I like having a drink with one of my buddies and just talking. Like this is simple things. I just like, let's have a drink and a cigar and visit, man. Like let's connect. So I don't need a filet mignon and a $2,000 bottle of wine. That stuff's whatever. But like for me, like if I could just talk to somebody and have a connection with someone, to me, that's what life's about. So it's simple things I love in life. Like last night, I was at El Torito with my daughter. We could afford to go to any restaurant in Laguna Beach, spend tons of money. What mattered is I was with my little girl, just me and her. And all I remember about that dinner, it was cold. And when we walked out, it's on the harbor down there, and she had me hug her all the way out to the car. And I got to walk and hold my little girl. She's 16. They don't always want to do that all the time, like when they were young, And I got to just hold her because it was cold. It was an excuse. I got to hold my little girl all the way to the car. And like I was like, this is my heaven. Like I would literally on the spinning earth, you could say be anywhere else in the world. I'd be like, I'll take this walk from El Torito to my car with this little girl. So these simple things make me happy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, I want to ask you the question that we ask every single person.
You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Man, I appreciate that.
Great interviewer. Sure.
I appreciate that, man, because coming from you is something special.
Yeah.
Like you know how you want to get certain stamps of approval? Mm-hmm. The Ed Mylett stamp of approval for this show.
Thank you.
It does crazy things.
Yeah. You're outstanding. So just so you know, the flow, the rhythm, how you listen, when you interject, like I'm watching. So
I appreciate that, man.
Really good.
The question we ask everybody is that if you were that person, whether you're currently in school, a lot of people are currently in school.
Okay.
Whether you're dropped out of school, it didn't work out for you, or you got that degree, and you're asking yourself the question of the podcast: school's over, now what? What advice would Ed Mylett give?
That's a biggie. I'll try to do it short. One, I would not spend the rest of my life doing something everybody else told me I was supposed to do. So you might have been doing that through school. You might have even picked a major that your parents thought you should pick. What I would tell you is you do not want to spend, I'm an old man, I'm almost 50 years old. You do not want to reach my age and go, wow, I did what my parents asked me to do, but not what I love. And so I would ask you, what do you love? What are your passions? What really moves you? Like what in your heart you go, man, I love this. And I would try as best I could to make my career my calling. And one of the ways people say, I don't know what my calling is. There's people that ask me that often all the time, like I'm not sure what my calling is. I know I love this or that or the other thing. So I'd ask you a question. Here's one way no one will ever say this to you, and you're going to be surprised. How do I know what my calling is? Let me tell you what the Lord gave you. When you were born and when you were growing up and what you have now, the Lord gave special to you 2 or 3 gifts that are yours. You don't even know what they are because you're so humble, but you got 2 or 3 gifts. I don't know what they are for you. There's millions of gifts, but you were given them. That could be your kindness, your intellect, your intensity, your passion, your beauty, your art, your speaking skills, your listening skills, your intuition, your faith, your strength, your courage, right? Your kindness. I don't know what those things are. Your humor, right? It could be all kinds of things. Your writing ability, problem solving, intellect, right? All kinds of stuff. If you could identify the 2 or 3 gifts that are yours, you're like, I kind of am good at that. Like I was good at math, or I'm good at listening, or I love people, or I really do care, or I do have faith, or whatever. People always told me I'm beautiful, or whatever it is, right? I'm going to tell you something. If you'll take those 2 or 3 gifts and figure out how to serve other people with them, you'll be the happiest person that's ever lived, and you'll make a bunch of money. That's number one. You go, I don't know what my gifts are. You go, I don't even know what those are. Who are your heroes? Who are you? We talked before. My hero's Dr. King, right?
Yeah.
I have other ones, but my primary hero growing up was Dr. King. So I have other heroes, but like if you start to ask yourself, these are my heroes. Do you know why they're your hero? Do you know why, actually?
Why?
Let me surprise you. You see giftedness in them that you actually know exist in you.
Wow.
Now, here's what's funny. They may use the gift differently. They may use it for a bigger purpose or in a different way. But if you go, my hero, for my case, was Dr. King. Not for what you'd think. He's a great speaker, all that. Mm-hmm. Dr. King loved people. Dr. King was a servant leader. I don't know why that makes me emotional. Like he truly cared more about other human beings than even his own safety. Yes. Right? Even his own safety. Yes. So my admiration for him was he was willing to stand out. He was willing to do things for other people, even to his own detriment. He was also gifted with the ability to be a great orator and communicator. Obviously, his intellect was high. But the thing that I connect with in him is I love people. I'm willing to sacrifice often in my life my own benefit for the benefit of other people. And I see that gift. So if you think about who your heroes are, the things you love and admire about them exist in you. It's why you see them. You'll use it differently.
Yeah.
I may use the fact that I love people to be a nurse. I could use the fact that I want to help people to my own detriment to be a non-profit organization. But the thing I saw in him, I went, I love that about him. This man is willing at his own sacrifice to help other people. He had vision, right? I have vision. I can see things, right? So the fact of the matter is, if you don't know what your gift is, who do you admire? Well, I admire my mother. Why? She loved us unconditionally. Really? So you love people unconditionally, don't you? If you start to look at who you admire in your life, who your heroes are, that'll tell you who your gifts are. Now that you know what your gifts are, you start to identify those. How can I use those to serve other people? And now you're moving towards your calling. Now, it may take you 2 years. It may take 5 years. You may need to go take a job out of college that's not your calling to pay the bills for now, to get through. And where you're planted, win there. Prosper, succeed, kick some ass, compete, be the best where you're planted. But have your eye on these gifts. Have your eye on your big vision. Have your eye on your calling. And someday, at some point, if you're young enough, these things will materialize and you'll find the people, places, and things and opportunities if you're looking for them. If you don't get so caught up in just existing and working your job and paying the bills and getting through this life and surviving, all these things people say, because if you're not careful, if you do that, you wake up at 50 and go, I just worked.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I didn't accomplish anything. I don't have any memories, as you said earlier. Life's about these moments, these memories. Your whole life's going to come down to a handful of moments, man, that you'll remember the rest of your life. And for me, I measure everything through this one thing. It sounds corny, but I do a pretty good job of this. When I die someday, I want the Lord to say, well done, good and faithful servant. But I have this hallucination. I think he goes, hey, psst, this dude right here, let me introduce you to the man you were born to be. The destiny version of you. When I made you, I made you to be this guy. Meet him. These are the places, the things, the memories, the moments, the contribution, the people he helped, the way he feels about himself. This is the man you were born to be. I think he introduces you to that man or woman. And for me, heaven would be I meet that person and we're identical twins. He goes, I meet him, I go, hey man, I've been chasing you my whole life. He goes, you caught me. You did it. You became me. You did the things. You saw the places. You helped the people. You experienced the things in your life God intended you to do. That's heaven to me. Hell would be I meet this person and we're total strangers. We went going down completely different paths. So I make most of my decisions like, does this get me closer to that ultimate destiny version of me, the man or woman I was born to be, or does it move me further away? If you use that as a barometer of the decisions you make in your life, if you're constantly trying to move towards the ultimate version of you, constantly trying to move towards the woman or man you were born to be, you're probably making good decisions.
Brother, that was real. I mean, because what's crazy about what you just said is, if you knew that at the end of your life, the Ed Mylett that you would see, and whether or not he would be the Ed Mylett you were supposed to be, were going to be the same person or not. I think that if you take that philosophy, you guys listening right now, I don't care if you're driving right now, this is the part where you pull over the side of the road, you pull out the pencil, you pull out the paper, you take out the notes, and you just either just write down all these gems that you're just dropping, man. You write them down. You screenshot it, take it to the next level. You screenshot it,
that's right,
and you tag Ed, because this is going to do something for you, man.
I'm glad that it helps if it does.
Bro, I had a lot of people on this show, and I can say that the advice that you've given today, never heard.
Thank you. Well, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I'm here to help you. I'm going to get you some more guests, too. This show is for real.
Let's line it up. Let's line it up.
We will.
For those of you guys that are listening, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Ed, it was a pleasure, man.
My honor. Thank you.
Good.
How good was that?
That was great, man.